You know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation just utterly drained, kind of confused, maybe even second guessing your own memory? Yeah, that feeling is not an accident. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing the cover off the manipulation playbook, and we're going to give you the exact tools you need to spot it in the wild. Seriously, have you ever felt inexplicably guilty just for setting a totally normal boundary? I completely get it. You finally say no just to protect your own peace, and somehow, by the time the conversation ends, you are the one apologizing. What we're unpacking today, it's not just a collection of random toxic habits. We're talking about highly calculated psychological strategies. These are tactics specifically designed to pull your strings and ultimately gain control over you. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 4 main areas. First, distorting your reality. Second, weaponizing affection and care. Third, controlling through conflict. And finally, taking back your power. All right, let's jump right into part 1, distorting your reality, or how someone alters your perception to gain control. Now, we hear the word gaslighting thrown around all the time, right? But the way it actually happens is terrifyingly quiet. It's almost never some big, dramatic shouting match. Instead, it's someone gently, persistently rewriting the story. You state a clear memory, and they casually drop a, "that never happened." You express that you're hurt, and they tell you you're just being way too sensitive. It's a really slow, methodical conditioning. It happens one tiny denial at a time until eventually you actually start to believe their version of reality over your own gut instinct. And then, what happens when a manipulator is actually held accountable? Well, they often deploy the absolute ultimate form of narrative control. It's a psychological sleight of hand called DARVO. That stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. Let's actually walk through what this looks like in the real world. Imagine you calmly bring up something that upset you. Boom. Step 1. They deny it entirely. "I never said that." Step 2 is the attack. Suddenly, we're not talking about what they did anymore. No, now it's about your tone, your timing, or maybe something you did 3 years ago. And then comes step 3, the flip. Just like that, they become the victim. Your honesty gets treated like an unprovoked attack, and a conversation that started about your feelings has completely morphed into a defense of their character. It's wild. So, how exactly do we fight back against this? Combating reality distortion really comes down to a few clear actions. First up, start writing things down. Keep your reality anchored. Second, you have got to stop over-explaining yourself to someone who's just pretending they don't understand you. And when you run into DARVO, do not take the bait. Stick straight to the facts. Remember this, holding someone accountable is not an attack, and telling the truth is not cruelty. Moving on to part 2, weaponizing affection and care. This is all about using intensity and so-called help as a trap. Okay, let's talk about love bombing. Look, it feels absolutely incredible at first, but that initial high of feeling like the center of someone's universe, that isn't actually love. It's just intensity. It's an overwhelming rush of constant texting, grand gestures, talking about forever on like the second date. They're essentially creating a chemical high in your brain that is incredibly hard to quit. It's emotional bait. They hook you completely, right before they inevitably pull back and turn ice cold. Think about the total contrast and motivations here. A genuine connection, it grows quietly. It takes actual time, plenty of space, and genuine honesty to take root. Love bombing, on the other hand, moves impossibly fast. It relies on bright lights and pure intensity, and honestly, it feels exactly like what it is, a performance. If someone is building a massive future with you before actual trust has even formed, that's not love. And guess what? You don't owe anyone an encore to their performance. Now, on the exact opposite side of that spectrum, we have breadcrumbing. This is when they drop just enough emotional clickbait to keep you hooked. You know the feeling? That totally frustrating limbo of waiting for a random text at 2 a.m. or vague plans that never actually happen. The goal here isn't connection at all. It's completely unaccountable control. They keep you hoping while they hold 100% of the power. Then we've got a much sneakier tactic, the white knight. This is a manipulator who literally builds the fire just so they can show up with the hose. They might be quietly stirring up drama behind the scenes, subtly chipping away at your confidence, all so they can swoop in and comfort you when you finally fall apart. Their endgame is to keep you just broken enough to ensure they stay relevant in your life. Just look at the difference in the end goals. Real support helps you rise up. A genuine person wants you standing on your own 2 feet, stronger than you were before. But the white knight, they need you on your knees to maintain their status as your savior. By all means, take genuine help when it's offered, but never, ever surrender your own agency in the process. To combat this kind of fake affection, you've really got to hit the pause button. Start looking at their long-term patterns, not just their immediate, flashy promises. Demand absolute consistency over charm. And pay really close attention if someone seems to be quietly pushing the pieces of your life apart, just so they can heroically step in and rescue you. You have the power to say that crumbs simply are not enough. All right, on to part 3, controlling through conflict. This is how they win, by shifting focus, using guilt, or weaponizing silence. Well, after everything I've done for you, have you heard that one? That right there is the classic sound of a guilt trip, and it's so subtle because it doesn't even look like a real argument. If they can't get you to say yes, they'll just make you feel absolutely terrible for saying no. It's a tactic that effectively turns your own kindness into a massive debt you can never, ever repay. Or how about this gem? Well, Sarah agrees with me. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. Welcome to triangulation. This is the strategy of pulling a third party, sometimes even an imaginary one, into the mix, so you feel completely outnumbered by an invisible team. All of a sudden, you aren't just having a direct disagreement with one person anymore. You are defending yourself against an entire narrative. It's incredibly isolating. And then, of course, there is the weaponization of absence. Look, taking space is a totally healthy, respectful pause when you need to calm down. But the silent treatment, that is entirely different. That's using absence as a weapon. They go totally cold and distant until you finally break. They literally force you to bend and apologize, not because you did anything wrong, but just to make that unbearable, anxious quiet finally stop. So how do we dismantle these specific conflict tactics? First, you have to separate real guilt, which comes from violating your own personal values, from manipulated guilt, which is just someone else trying to control you. Second, pull those triangles apart. Just say, hey, if Sarah has an issue, she can talk to me directly. Talk to me, not about me. And finally, when it comes to the silent treatment, you've got to stop chasing the noise. Clearly say, I'm open to talking, but I will not be punished with silence. Name the behavior and hold your ground. Which brings us to our final section, part 4, taking back your power, reclaiming your agency, and trusting your gut. If you take nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this. You do not need to perfectly decode their behavior. You just need to decide what you are going to accept. You don't need anyone's permission to believe your own lived experiences, and you certainly don't need permission to hold a firm boundary. Stop endlessly trying to figure out why they're dropping crumbs or rewriting history. You just have to decide, right now, that you deserve better. Which leaves us with this final, absolutely vital thought. If someone's presence in your life consistently requires you to doubt your reality, abandon your boundaries, and sacrifice your self-worth, isn't it time to stop analyzing them and finally start trusting yourself? Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me today. Learn the playbook, fiercely protect your peace, and never, ever let anyone else hold the pen to your reality.